Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to RCI TV for round 7 of the GT3 World Championship. We've flown out from the lights of Misano, and we are back for two 30-minute sprint races at Donington Park, one of the greatest circuits in the UK. My name is Ryan Gill, and I'll be joined tonight, as I have for the entire season so far, with everyone's favorite American commentator. It is the one, the only, the Jesse Lee.
Oh, every time you absolutely flatter me, Ryan Gill. Hello, everybody out there at RCI TV land. Glad to have you back with us for round 7. You said that, Ryan. And I had to very quickly check what round we were on. We are very quickly approaching the end of this Friday championship season. And well, this isn't the finale, but today has major championship implications because of a very notable absence.
That's right, Jesse. Well, everyone probably knows that James Parker is in the running for the championship here this evening. He doesn't lead the championship, but of course he is one of the 3 main contenders. But unfortunately, he has signed out for this evening, personal reasons. And, well, it's a massive shame that we won't be seeing James Parker out here for the penultimate round of the season. We hope he can rejoin us in a week's time for the final round at Suzuka. But what this does mean, Jesse, is that, well, George Boothby, Jaroslav Honzik, they take center stage here tonight, because realistically, they're the only 2 drivers that are in contention for the championship. But you know what? It's well in Boothby's court at this point in time.
Well, Boothby definitely has the advantage, and certainly he's looked like the more stout driver. I mean, that being said, Jardier rarely finishes off the podium, doesn't he? But Boothby has just been a bit special. He's very rarely not won or been in contention to win. So it's looking good in Parker's absence. But again, you still got to run the races and you still have to finish well. One bad finish for Boothby puts Jardier in the driver's seat. I mean, he's already in the driver's seat, but he puts him in the driver's seat for this championship. And we all know how dangerous Jardier can be when you give him just a little bit of hope. And anything here today could happen. If this championship's taught me anything that can happen here at RCI will happen here at RCI. And also, look at it right here in a practice. If practice is anything to go by, Boothby is slower than Jardier.
It's been interesting to have a look at the practice as we whittle our way down. The format here tonight, 2 30-minute sprint races on offer. Same format that we had at Misano, Snetterton, and Kyalami so far this season. This will be the last time that we see the 2x30 format for this season. We have a 75-minute race out at Suzuka to end off the season. Half points available for everyone here tonight in their race results. And of course, there will be 2 qualifying sessions taking place. We have the one coming up in just under a minute's time. Then we'll have the first race, 5-minute break, followed by the second qualifying session, and then, of course, the second race. So 2 chances for someone to put the car on pole as Jardier makes a little mistake coming through the Fogarty S's on his final lap for practice. He'll park it on the side of the circuit, nothing doing there. As we wait for qualifying to tick over, just a few drivers coming around now to finish up their practice sessions. But look at this, Jesse. 4 drivers within 1/10 of a second in practice. And George Boothby coming out clutch at the end of practice to put himself second at the end of this session. Do you think that means anything going forward for the race?
I think it does. I think it shows that Boothby found something there right at the end. Either that or he put his car in the qualifying trim, leaned it out on fuel, and just took a mock run. One of the 2 things happened there. And you were with me. We saw what happens in a race around here where everybody is a pro driver and you get about 25 cars all within about a second of one another. That's what I think you're going to see here in qualifying, folks. You're going to see basically the whole field right around a second away from each other from first to last. And that is going to create some very, very chaotic racing in these short 30-minute races. But never mind that. 10 minutes to do the business. Time to get it done. Qualifying for race one here underway.
Yeah, and it was quite the panic to get out of the pit lane at the start. George Boothby and Philippe Samard fighting to see who would be first over the pit exit line and to see who would get that track position. And Milton Steele-Vassen sorry, as I have to correct myself now after he explained to me how his name was pronounced.
He very politely corrected us. Yes.
He did.
Very politely.
And we appreciate that as he's following in suit. So a few of these guys, you know, worrying a lot about track position and wanting to get their laps done out here as quick as possible. Donington Park, one of the shorter circuits that we have here on the calendar for this championship. And in case you missed the little fact section that we had in the 3 hours of Donington for the World Tour, as George Boothby goes very, very wide, Donington Park, actually, by distance, the shortest circuit in the new British GT DLC. But here we go then. Let's go on board with George Boothby. Man of the hour into turn one. Nice and late on the brakes. Get the car turned in nice and early. Down on the power as quick as you can. Go wide. Use as much of the curb as possible. Then into Hollywood. And the Craner curves completely flat through here as he brakes for the old hairpin. Get on the brakes nice and early. Turn in the car. And then maximize your exit as well. Makes his way past Starkey's Bridge. And then up the Schwantz curve as he makes his way to McLean's. Nice and tight on the inside. Avoid the bump at the end of that curve. Go as wide as you dare. George Boothby just a bit wide, I think, on the grass there. Blind braking zone for Coppice as you get the car turned in nice and early. Flat out down the back straight, Starkey Straight as it is called. The old Dunlop Bridge no longer there. We make our way towards the Fogarty S's. Extremely fast chicane. The tyre wall already gone as George Boothby flies through there, keeps his lap valid, which is the most important thing, and then prepares himself for 2 hairpins. The Melbourne Loop is the first one. You can see the Welcome to Donington Park sign there as well. Gets the car turned in nice and early on the power as well. Makes his way towards Goddard's, the final corner. Got to be careful of how the corner just seems to dip as you go through the second exit phase. Early on the power, out onto the straight. Up towards the timing line, 126.7. It's a great lap from George Boothby, and Philippe Samard matches it. Wow.
Well, you talked about it, Ryan, how we had 4 drivers within a 1/10 of a second. Well, how about a complete deadlock tie for the lead? That will go to Boothby, I think, because he set the lap first, I think is how that actually works.
That is correct. The driver that sets the lap first is given priority. So George Boothby coming out and, being the first driver out on track, getting that track position, means that level lap times means that he is the guy that starts on provisional pole. But of course, we still have 6 minutes of this session remaining. These guys could still improve, and George Boothby seems to be easing off at this point in time. Maybe made a mistake, wants to have just a little bit of a cool down, have a go at it again, but Philippe Samard and Milton Steele-Vassen are up on their lap times as well. Steele-Vassen just under half a second off of the lap time that George Boothby and Philippe Samard produced for that provisional pole. Lap time, Philippe Samard has just unfortunately lost time, but here comes Milton Steele-Vassen. He's up by 6/10 of a second. This is going to be provisional pole. Comes up towards the timing line, loses time out of the final corner, but goes clear nonetheless. And we have a new provisional pole sitter with just over 5 minutes remaining.
Well, 69/100ths of a second, the difference between pole and the co-owners of second place, second and third now, And that is all that is in it, as still Vassen is your provisional pole sitter. Half the session left to go. Everybody here needs to pull out all the stops and get it done here. Remember, 2 30-minute races. We'll have a short qualifying session and then a race, and then we're going to do it all over again as Jordan Grant Smith goes to the provisional pole. 26,417. Hashtag ban Jordy, hashtag front row so far, as he sets, that's an incredible lap in this heat. 43 degrees C, the track temp. We haven't talked about that yet, but nearly puts 3/10 on Still Vassen.
Well, hashtag ban Geordie, get them out in the chat. As we see George Boothby coming around again, he is up on his lap time, the championship leader. We'll see the point standings later on in the stream before the first race, whilst we're on the grid waiting time. But here we go, just over 0.3 of a second. Up on his lap time at this point in time, 87 thousandths off of Jordan Grant Smith's provisional pole lap time. So George Boothby improves to the front row of the grid, but not quite where he wants to be to start the race.
Soldatov slots into a top 5 spot, but I would not consider that safe. Every car out on track right now, nobody stopping, but now just 2 cars having to reset. I saw the 72 was off in the old hairpin, and I believe there was the 18 or the 16 car, one of the 2, that was also off a turn prior to that. Well, they will have one opportunity if they get out quick enough to set one lap. All of these drivers, including Philippe Samard, trying to climb up the ranks. 5th place right now for Samard in the 42 for the EGG Motorsports, or Egg Motorsports. Coming around the hairpin, the first hairpin anyway. And they are going to abort that lap. Wasn't good enough, and they will reset. Now, they might still, with 2 minutes 40 to play, might be able to reset and get another lap in. In fact, the 120 has also done exactly the same thing, as Jordan Grant Smith has come into pit road. Could do no better than that 26,415. Will they need to? We don't know yet, but they have come into pit road, and it looks like they are going to stay there. Hashtag ban Jordy. No, they are not going to stay there. That was a very quick reset. I think they'll just get one more lap in, as Christopher Tavrayan coming around the final hairpin, going to try and improve all the way down in 18th place. How far up the grid will this lap get them? It'll get them to 14th, 27,117, 7/10 off of the pole pace. Here comes Verstappen to the line, down in 21st just now. Back up to 18th place, nearly 9/10 off the pace. The lap times are coming down. They're getting very close, Ryan.
Definitely are getting very, very close now. Almost the entire field within 1 second of each other. Cody Pride still hasn't got a valid lap out there at this point in time for PPR Esports, the #1 McLaren, which we saw have an absolutely fantastic race at Silverstone, and then, well, the next 2 races at Misano, the less said the better for Cody Pride's Pride. And he'll be hoping he can do much better this time around in the McLaren here at Donington Park, on home turf, of course. For this car, the McLaren 720S has had a significant amount of success around Donington Park and British GT over the last couple of years. And Cody Pride will be hoping to emulate some of that success here today. But he has to get a valid lap on the board if he's going to do that. And at this point in time, doesn't have a valid lap on the board, and he doesn't have too much time to set one. He should get to the end of this lap and have enough time to go around again. But if he invalidates this lap, and oh no, that's going to be it. Cody Pride's going to start at the back of the grid. He doesn't have the time.
He just got over the curb, Ryan, unsettled the car, and that is very easy to do. You want to get the curb just enough, but not get on top of it, and Oh, you hate it for Cody Pride. They will be starting shotgun on the grid, but this is the man that's going quicker right now. Philippe Samard, nearly enough here. He needs to pick up just a little bit more in the final sequence of corners here. This could potentially be a pole troubling lap as time expires in the session. All flying laps will count. Samard coming to the flag. Will he pick up enough? It's looking like a top 5 lap, but all the way to third. Not good enough for pole, but a 26.538 provisional third place. Can Jardier say something about it? And yes, he will. To third place, Jardier for a 26.514. And oh boy, Darren King coming to the line outside the top 10. Very unlike him. Where will he get with 2 turns to go? A couple cars behind him, the 47. Looks like the 194. Also on laps that will count.
So Darren King rounds the final corner. Up towards the timing line, up by a quarter of a second at this point in time. He will go 8th at the end of the qualifying session. Simon Keeble as well for MSV Racing will throw himself up into 13th place in the final car. To come across the line, it is Alban Bouquet, currently sits 17th, goes 14th. So there we have it then. Qualifying coming to an end. It is hashtag ban Geordie on pole, with the championship leader George Boothby alongside Jaroslav Honzik and Philippe Simard on the second row of the grid. And Steele Vasson rounding out a very, very close top 5. Well, as we await the cars to line up on the grid, have a little look at the championship standings for this series. We did say that we'd have a little look at them. So here we go then. GT3 Championship, GT3 Pro. It is the top split, and it is George Boothby at the top of the points table. 306 points for the Side Max Motorworks Ferrari GT3 Evo. Jaroslav Honzik and James Parker both on 279 points. They are the only challengers to George Boothby's throne. Alban Bouquet sits 101 points behind George Boothby. That just kind of shows you how the top 3 have been in a bit of a class of their own so far this season. Milton Steele Vasson with 201 points. He's got plenty to play for so far in this championship, as does Philippe Simard in 6th place with 200 points. Fabian Piffet in 7th had a great couple of races out at Misano last week, and Alexander Karsten, who really did have a few races to forget as well, in 8th place. Herbert Frischel, he's in 9th at this point in time. And Hamza Bel Hassan manages to round out the top 10. Moving on to the second page, we have Simon Keeble, followed by Ismail Lebrec, who's unfortunately had to sign out of this championship so far. Grant Willamot in 13th, followed by Jordan Gransmith, the current pole sitter for tonight. He's level on points with Darren King, in fact, both on 115, and 1 point behind them is actually Cody Pride, who starts at the back of the grid today. John Clements and Joe McCauley, 105 and 104 points for those two, respectively. Konstantin Soldatov and Christopher Verstreppen round out the top 20. Then it is Christopher Tavrayan, followed by Valentin Barrier. Both of those on equal points, 84 apiece. Juraj Fenchek and Loic Vanak, 23rd and 24th. Harry Conway and Billy Octane both signed out of the championship. Joe Kavaka is present here tonight, it would seem. Daniel Jose Jorges also present here tonight. Kieran Prendergast, unfortunately, no longer in the championship, and neither is Dave van der Neet. And the rest of the drivers in suit also no longer in the championship. Ivan Shermatinsky, Fabio Azevedo, Christian Lotter, Oscar Hull, and of course Adam Tompkins, who unfortunately did not get to start the season. So, those are the championship standings. And, well, our producer, Jesse, has just told us that it's even hotter out on track at the moment. It was fairly hot for practice and qualifying, but it's 43 degrees track temperature at this point in time, and we have just 2 minutes until the start of the first 30-minute sprint race tonight.
Well, you can tell the starter he's not going to need that jacket today. It is absolutely boiling here at Donington today. And, well, if it's anything like the introductory race that we did a month ago when it was very hot, you're likely to see a lot of issues, not only with the tires, but with loss of grip. We saw it a little bit in qualifying. Cody Pride was a victim. I wonder, when they're really pushing it and having to race people, are we going to see a repeat of what we saw at the very first introduction sort of event we did? We did see a bit of that at the 3 hour, but it wasn't a ton in comparison to that. So this is the hottest we've seen it. That is a possibility. But that all being said, these are the best of the best drivers that you can find in ACC. So we'll have to see, with a little bit more practice that they've had over the past month. Maybe that will not happen. But my goodness, the times are very, very close, especially inside the top 4 or 5. Ryan Gill, how do you find space if you are racing people inside the top 5? How do you get in line? Because that's obviously what you have to do here. You don't want to be battling with somebody here. You lose seconds a lap. What do you do to get some space and not lose anything on this start?
Well, it's a rather obvious answer that people are going to be expecting, but you can't afford to sleep on the start. You need to be hooked up. You need to get a positive start. And the cars that are very, very good through the low gears, that come really well out of the slow corners, they're going to be the cars that capitalize on the starts. We see it sometimes in the GT4s. Cars like the Camaro, very, very good under, low gear acceleration, often very, very good on the starts. And that's what some of these guys are going to have to be thinking of. They're going to be looking at the guys alongside them, and they're going to be saying, okay, what kind of car are they in? I mean, look at Philippe Samard in the Aston Martin. Realistically, starting alongside Jardier, he's not going to get the jump on that Mercedes unless Jardier is really, really slacking. And then you've got the Porsche, Jordan Grantsmith and George Boothby. He knows that that Ferrari has kick in it coming out of the slow corners. He knows that that car can get the jump on him if he is sleeping on the start. So Jordan Grantsmith, he's got to be alert. He's got to keep himself focused, not sleep on the starts, and make sure that when they come down into turn 1, he's A, got the inside line, which is the most important thing here at Donington Park, but also B, that George Boothby isn't side by side or slightly ahead of him, even if he's challenging around the outside.
Well, as per usual, we have our army of stewards, the Friday Championship live stewarded. So that is also in play. Also, something else that did occur, very easy to pick up track limits violations here, trying to make time, especially in this section of the racetrack where you are trying to get everything out of it. And of course, the chicane, the place where you're likely to see the most passing, the most accidents, and the most track cut violations. And boy, when you get the S's wrong here, it can cause not only yourself a headache, but anybody behind you a headache as well. But turn 1 will also end up likely being Calamity Corner, at least here on the start. Everybody starting on the inside, though. You gotta say, they probably have a big advantage. And the tire barrier there in the S's, Ryan, that did not even make it through the pace lap. It's already gone.
I have kind of noticed that it does get taken out on formation laps at times, and I wonder if it's almost intentional from drivers to try and force track cuts from people, because you can kind of use that tire barrier to know where the track limits are at the foggy S's. And, just a bit of strategy going on, perhaps. Some cheeky tricks, as Niki Lauda would often call them, that you would do and other drivers would do to get the better over each other. But here we go then. It's time for the tricks to end, and it's time for the talent to show. Jordan Grantsmith on pole. alongside championship leader George Boothby, 2 by 2 as far as the eye can see, coming around the final corner, crawling up towards the line for the first of two 30-minute sprint races here tonight. Will it be #BanGeordie or will it be George Boothby that's the winner here tonight after the first race? And look at the start from Gordon Grantsmith. Amazing start. And it looks like Jardier as well, just tapping the back of the Ferrari. Philippe Samard was looking to go around the outside, but Jardier said no. And here comes the AMG Evo as well, looking to get the jump on George Boothby so early on. The two title contenders already, although small, coming to slight blows. And we've got a car off in the background as well. It's a white Aston Martin.
White Aston Martin off in the background. That's going to be the 64 going off the track. And, well, I talked about it right before we went to green, that it's very important to get down to the inside. That was not lost on George Boothby, who immediately tucked into the line. Jardier gave him a bump for good measure as everybody single file through one. And then it got very spicy indeed. And then everybody minding their P's and Q's through the S's the first time by, doing very well to keep it all together. By the way, that was the 64 Aston of Soldatov that went off after old Hairpin. And he has got the car going the correct direction. He is, well, there he is in the background, in fact, going into that hairpin there. As looks like Jardier all over the back of Boothby here. That continues as Grant Smith has walked out. Just a little bit of daylight, perhaps quite humorously. Jordan Grant Smith, immediately after qualifying on pole, came into our chat and started saying, "Can we get a ban, Jordy, on this one?" And well, yes, you can. And my only 2 cents to that is don't actually get banned, because that has happened before. Other than that, a few minor scrapes and bumps, but all clean for the most part here, Ryan, as we're going to go back to, I think we're going to see the incident with the Soldatov here, I think.
This is Darren King, who had a little bit of a coming together with Bel Hussein. There's just a little bit of contact there, but we're going to get another replay here, and this is just afterwards. So we're looking at Bel Hussein.
So that's Soldatov behind.
Darren King. Contact.
Does Darren
oh,
King
no.
hit him?
Oh, no.
Well, that explains it.
Yep, that's where it was. So Darren King tapped Bel Hussein again. And, well, that's why Soldatov went flying off into the gravel. And kind of just caught as a passenger there. Not really much that he could do. Completely innocent in all of that. But you know what? Look at this. Jardier, he's feeling racy tonight. And he wants to close the gap to Boothby before we go to the final round of the championship. And, well, what better way to do that than finishing in front of your competitors? There are other ways around it, but the best way is to finish ahead of them, and Jaroslav Honzik looking to do that here tonight, right on the back of George Boothby, as the Porsche Jordan Grantsmith still leads the way up front.
Well, something happened on that lap to Svenchek and then Vanek just a minute ago, as those two cars are languishing behind the field now. Didn't quite catch what happened, didn't see any waved yellows, but something definitely happened, because they ended up behind Soldatov. And look at this, racing right now. Jardier trying to get on Boothby. No way around in the corners there. He's going to have to wait till we get down to the S's. Looks like he has the grunt. Will he try an inside move into the S's? He's looking like he's thinking about it, but thinks better of it. Gets back in line. Smart move there by a smart, crafty driver, and he will likely get that pass, but he is not going to attempt it before its time has come, and that's very smart. What happened to Cody Pride? Cody Pride started dead last on the grid today.
Might just be an overtake, I think. Is it on the inside?
Oh, it is indeed.
Very well done.
There it is. Cody Pride having to do it the hard way. He's gonna, if he wants to win today, or in this race, he's gonna have to pass every car, and however unlikely that is, he is making very good headway, up to 18th after starting dead last. Verstappen will be the next car he has to pass. And look at Bel Hussein going down to the inside on pivot, trying to get the move made. Can't quite do it. you have to very quickly, Ryan, cover the line. If you know that move's not going to come off, you have to very quickly cover that line because Frechelle smells blood in the water now.
Yeah, the NSX, which has had a bit of a resurgence at the British GT tracks we've seen so far, means that Herbert Frechelle is having a good look at Bel Hussein's rear end, and he quite fancies having the NSX in front. Meanwhile, Cody Pride, he's on a charge at this point in time, right on the back of the Aston Martin now, and he means business. Are we going to see two moves at the same corner again in consecutive laps? No, doesn't look like the McLaren has the charge out of the corner compared to the Ferrari last time around, but Cody Pride putting, was that Verstappen under pressure, and now Willemot has closed in on Frechelle. This is the problem. If you don't make an overtake, you leave yourself open, and the Bentley has a little look, doesn't see anything doing that, tucks back inside, and sensible driving from these guys. They don't have too much time to get overtakes done in these 30-minute sprint races, but you've got to be careful, because we've got live stewards here today, and you could easily find yourself with a penalty. This is João Cavaca on lap 2. Ooh, slight touch, I think, with Willemot. Touch again, but doesn't seem to be anything too serious, and he's down in 20th place at this point in time.
Yeah, something up with Cavaca's car. That thing just did not look very fast going through the corner, almost like there's some sort of setup issue with that car, just not quite looking up to speed in relation to some of the other cars they're racing. This battle does continue. Nearly a full second Grant Smith has over Boothby, and Jardier not far behind, and almost like Jardier has given up just a little bit of room there for the time being, as Valentin Berrier is now in the top 10, trying to run down Daniel Jose Jorge in the 9th place position. Got Macaulay up there in 8th as well. Darren King in the 7th place position. And I got to say, even though there was some contact and a few incidents, that rule thinks about it, doesn't quite get it to come off. This Berrier has to fall back in line and cover, as that looks like Piffet just spun in the chicane by himself, and it is.
Oh dear, Fabian Piffet in the Lexus, not having a great time at this point, and here is Bel Hussein on Christopher Verstappen getting past, and the Ferrari having to take a challenge here from the Aston. Cody Pride, though, he's looking to capitalize here. He knows what's up. He knows how to pass around here, and he's going to wait. Ooh. Touch between the Ferrari and the Aston. They're going to go side by side again through Craner curves. The Aston's going to go slightly wide. That compromises him. He's going to go for the send, and and that's both of them off. And Cody Pride and Tavrayan will go through.
Oh no!
Bad. And Cavaca's out and in the wall.
Oh, that was as unsafe of a rejoin as you could possibly have had. Well, they're going to take their car to pit lane is what is going to happen there. That's about as awful as that could have possibly have been. They took each other off. They got a little bit hot under their helmets, and João Cavaca is literally just faultless here. He went all the way to the outside, Ryan, and it was not to be. And contact there, the stewards will not take very kindly to that. I think we can all agree. And Boothby here still maintaining that spot, and the gap is gone. Grant Smith is giving up all of that 1 second gap to Boothby. I said earlier I thought maybe Jardier was laying back. No, I just think that everything got up to temperature for Boothby's Ferrari now.
Yeah, George Boothby, well and truly up to speed, but if there's anything we found out from George Boothby, is that he doesn't like being under pressure. Jordan Grant Smith, though, well, we're about to find out what he's like under pressure. Here is the Ferrari on the inside, though. George Boothby looking to retake the lead, but look at the drive from the Porsche. Out of the corner, way superior to the Ferrari. And Jordan Grant Smith retains the position, and that now puts George Boothby in a bit of an awkward position. Tavrayan is off onto the grass as well. Not entirely sure what's happened to the number 59 Ferrari, but now Jardier's got to be looking at this, and he's got to be thinking to himself, I have to make a move. But here comes George Boothby again, down towards the Melbourne Loop. He's got the inside line. He's practically alongside. Brakes later. This is the part where you want to be. Tucks on, but look at the drive from Jordan Grantsmith. He's not giving this up. He's going to have the inside for Goddard's for the final corner. And here comes Jardier as well. He's going to try and follow through. Is the Mercedes going to get past? He'll be passed at the line. But is George Boothby going to have a go at turn 1? He has the inside line. He's got the space. The Mercedes going to go around the outside of turn 1.
There's no way. There's absolutely no way. Jardier is going to go from third to first in 2 turns. He set him up, he reeled him in, and he's got it done. Jardier from third to first in 2 turns. Excellent driving, young man. The new leader of the race, the 39 AMG. Jordan Grantsmith still holding on to second for the moment, but Boothby's going to sneak into the inside. There's going to be contact, and Jordan Grantsmith goes off the track. Philippe Samard looking down the inside of Boothby for second. Position gain. The switchback. Can it work? Potentially. Almost a touch. Tail to tail, nose to nose, and door to door are the two of Samard and Boothby as they go into the S's. How is this going to work? One is going to have to surrender, and it's going to be Boothby. Samard from fourth to second. But here he goes again. It's going to be 3 wide. It's going to be 3 wide. Karsten going down to the inside, and on the outside is still Vasson. Everybody, it's bedlam here at Donington.
I did say we've seen George Boothby crack under pressure before, and we're starting to see it again now, just starting to panic, I think, in that Ferrari at this point in time. He needs to compose himself, as we can see Darren King trying to get past the recovering Jordan Grantsmith at this point in time. But what a move from Jardier. Took second in the final corner, took first around the outside, but here comes Darren King. Jordan Grantsmith thinks better of it. He's, I'm not going to get in your way. And Darren King up into 6th place, but, well, how rough is this for George Boothby? Had the chance to take the lead of the race. Now he's running 4th. He's under pressure. And my word, this is all playing into Jardier's hands for the first race tonight.
Well, Jardier has a mathematical chance at winning this championship if he can keep Boothby off the podium and win himself and potentially set the quickest lap, Jardier. That is a boatload of points with, well, 2 races left to go, I should say, after this one. It's very, very important that he gets all he can, and that move around the outside, that was clean. That was so good. How many times have we seen Jardier go around the outside of somebody in a corner where it just seems impossible? As Keeble's going to make a move here, there's going to be light contact with the Ferrari of Beria, I think.
And here comes Bouquet and Macaulay. They're going to try and take this as well. And is Alban Bouquet going to be on the inside of Simon Keeble? Yes, he is. He's going to force the Aston Martin to go wide. That's going to allow Valentin Barrier to get back, and he's going to be side by side at this point in time. Joe Macaulay in the NSX. He's not going to make this 3 wide. Surely not, Joe. Later on the brakes for Barrier. And the NSX can't quite get around the Aston Martin. But my word, we've had some unbelievable overtakes so far in this race. We're not even halfway through. And, well, the penalties are finally starting to come through. Jesse Lee, drive-through penalty for Belt Hussein, lap 1, turn 4, causing a collision with car 64. That's a drive-through penalty. We don't see those that often, but I think in this case, considering the consequences that Soldatov had, probably deserved.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that myself, and the stewards very much on top of that, and this race continues. Samard went from 4th to 2nd at the same time that Jardier went from 3rd to 1st, but he is being threatened by Karsten. Karsten trying to take the Bentley around the outside. If he can hang on, it's going to be the inside, but it isn't going to be, as Boothby attempting to recover here, knows that points are very vital if he wants to win the Friday GT3 World Championship. but can't quite do it there. Can't take the third podium spot as they all filter back out to where they were prior to the opportunity. But Samard doesn't seem to have quite the pace that Carson has, and we know what Boothby has. And any of these drivers, when you get side by side, it slows you down. We talked about it. Here especially, it slows you down so much that it could be worth seconds. And we saw when Jardier Boothby and Grant Smith started battling, Samard caught right up to them and snuck in there for second. And that's where we're at right now. But my word, like you said, there have been some close calls and incidents that were completely avoidable. But there have been some amazing moves and some really great clean racing here. I'm also very curious what the stewards have to say about Grant Smith and Boothby coming together that caused Boothby to go off, or excuse me, Grant Smith to go off in the first place. And I'd be very interested to see what they have to say about that.
Definitely worth keeping an eye on for sure, as Jordan Grant Smith is now back up to speed and trying to put pressure on Darren King. Meanwhile, Simon Keeble still looking for a way past Valentin Barrier. And of course, Joe McCauley lurking in the background, as well as Herbert Frischel, the two NSX cars left in this championship. And just a quick comment on the two NSX cars. I saw Ismail Lebrec lurking around the chat earlier on, Jesse, and oh, here we go, too wide. It's Cody Pride and Grant Willamot, and this is going to be a place by the looks of it for Cody Pride. Up into 14th place goes the McLaren, and going to cover that one off nicely. And oh, speaking of more side-by-side action as well, Joe McCauley.
Oh, he's going to lose it.
He's lost it. Is he going to roll back onto the track? No. Gets the car pointing somewhat in the right direction. Comes back onto the circuit. Not going to endanger anyone with the rejoin. And oh my word, Joe McCauley. A self-inflicted incident again.
Well, you have to feel bad for Joe McCauley, and it's one of those things. You're not on the racing line because you're giving way, and you saw the car twitch, and I've done that 500,000 times myself here. You're a little bit off the line. You've got two tires off of the groove, and you go to turn in, and you have to catch it because it starts to slide a little bit too much. You want it to slide a little bit, but it slides too much, and you try to catch it, and overcorrection, and you have a little spin in old hairpin, and that's exactly what happened there. And that definitely was not helped by how hot the track is. It did cool off a little bit, folks. It's now only 42 degrees C track temp, down from 43 when we started. Oh, by the way, remember these guys, Boothby and still Vasson, racing for the 4th place position. Boothby can ill afford to give up the 5th place position to Vasson. Well, Vasson doesn't really care about Boothby's championship challenge at this point. He just wants that position. I would expect Boothby to defend with his life at this point. His championship definitely under threat all of a sudden here halfway through this race.
Yeah, definitely is under threat. If you're thinking to yourself at this point in time, okay, well, he's in 4th place and Jardier is in the lead. You know, how significant is that for the championship? Well, it's a 27-point gap with this race and 2 more remaining. Of course, half points on offer for your race result here tonight. But the thing is, George Boothby, he's losing 8 points at this point in time to Jardier. So that closes the gap to 19. If he has another bad race, or I say 4th is a bad result because at this point in the championship, it's not a great result when your rival is winning a race. That would mean that we could go into the final round of the championship with, I mean, what is that, an 11-point gap? Not accounting for fast slaps and a potential another pole position battle here, you know, for the second race. I mean, Jardier can still pick up more points. At this point, the gap might be under 10 points going into the final round of the championship. So George Boothby's got to play it safe. He's got to think of the long game, but he can't just afford to let everyone pass him.
Well, he's damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if you let Still Vassin by you, that's more points you lose. If you fight him and get into an accident, then you lose even more points. But risk versus reward, if you're able to keep him behind you, it's basically damage management, and it works out for you. As Simon Keeble is in a fight of his life here, trying to keep the 47 in front of Frechelle and also try and figure out a way to get around Barrier, who's holding on to the final spot in the top 10. Well held by Barrier as well. He's not gaining time, is Barrier on Bouquet in front, but Jose Jorge and Bouquet are locked in a battle, so usually when that happens, the gap behind closes in. So we will have to pay attention to that. Jardier has lost a tenth or two to Philippe Samard in the past lap or so. And I've been doing the maths, and it's not enough, even though he has been losing. There's only 10 minutes left. And at the current pace, he won't get there. But if Philippe steps it up to gating 1.5 tenths a lap, he will get there on the final lap of the race. Meanwhile, Karsten in third place, and Boothby, who has caught all the way back up. Still Vassin, who we were just talking about, who was hounding Boothby, has fallen more than a second adrift of the fourth place driver, and Boothby has caught up to Karsten. We're hearing reports in chat, we're hearing reports from several different teams now that the tires are overheating, and that's what's causing the time loss, Ryan.
Well, I'm not surprised the tyres are overheating. It's 35 degrees ambient out there, 42 degrees track temperature. It's a ridiculously hot day here in the UK, traditional of some of the summers that we have had over the past couple of races. Big news coming out though, car 8, Bel Hussein, has been disqualified from the race by the stewards. I saw they got another drive-through penalty, which upped their existing penalty to a stop-and-go 30, but apparently now they've been involved in another incident, which is, well, the stewards have just looked at that and thought, well, it's probably better we just disqualify you at this point in time from this round. So Bel Hussein not in the good books at this point in time. Verstappen's picked up a 5-second penalty as well for a collision that he had with Bel Hussein. This time the number 8 was innocent though. And the 122 of Van Ack has also picked up a 5-second penalty, and that was for a collision of car 195, which was Piffert in the Lexus. So a few penalties coming out now, and well, not a great day for some, a good day for others. And Simon Keeble, he'd like to improve his day so far by getting his Aston Martin up into the top 10, but Valentin Barrier at this point in time, he's rather happy with his top 10 spot. And oh, here we go on the inside.
Oh, here it is.
It's Karsten defending from Boothby. Boothby going to try and come back now up towards Koppitz. He's going to have the inside. This is the line that you want. But he just doesn't seem to have the acceleration. And now Karsten is on the favorable side.
Who's going to give?
He needs to be on the inside unless George Boothby is going to outbrake him massively. I don't think he will. Nope, the Bentley comes over into the chicane. Now George Boothby has the chance, back down on the power, inside line for the Melbourne loop. Can he outbrake the Bentley? Does it? Ooh, has a look on the inside. Karsten has to go slightly wide, and George Boothby up into P3, recovers. And it's a slight damage limitation, and here is Simon Keeble getting past Valentin Barrier, and he's moving his Aston Martin up into the top 10.
Two passes, and this one set up an absolute treat. The same thing as you saw Boothby in front do. Keeble's going to do this here on Barrier. He's just going to set him up. Excellent place. We talked about how time and time again the S's is a great place to set up a pass, and there you have it. If you can pin the driver that you're trying to pass to the inside of the S's and then you back off, you can get the run through the corner and set that up yourself. It is the cheekiest move on this racetrack that it's just nearly impossible to defend, because by the time you can move over to defend into the hairpin, well, they're already there because they got that good of a run, and that is exactly what had happened. And we also talked about whenever you race somebody here, how much time you lose. Remember when I told you Still Vassin was 1.3 to 1.5 seconds behind Boothby and Karsten? that little half a lap battle that Boothby and Karsten had brought Still Vasson all the way back up to them. That's how detrimental getting into a battle around here is. And now this is what you have. You have Still Vasson, who is now threatening Karsten. And for Boothby, a best case scenario. Back on the podium, limiting the damage. It's all going well. And oh, by the way, the race for the win not over with. Samard has picked it up. He's less than a second off of our leader now.
Well, if you thought the race couldn't get any crazier, it's about to. I thought Jardier maybe just easing off the pace a bit. You know, gonna just take it easy to the end of the race. But it seems that Samard, he means business here tonight. And I tell you what, Jesse, I mean, this man, he hasn't got a podium or a win so far this season.
That's true. That's very true.
Samard, he's on the verge of getting his first podium of the season. And how great would it be if he could cap it off with a win here tonight as well? If he could get a win on the board for his first podium of the season, that would be fantastic. But he's got to play it safe. He can't afford to throw away this position. Here comes Simon Keeble, by the way. Wow, that looked easy on Jordan Grant-Smith. I'm sure it wasn't that easy, but kind of made that like taking candy from a baby almost.
Well, we heard earlier that Jordan Grant-Smith's tires were just boiling, and I think you're seeing that on the racetrack. I talked about how it looked like he was going slower. It's because he doesn't have grip, and the car is not supporting him. He will be able to make all sorts of adjustments for race number 2. Keep in mind, this is just race 1 of a double header here. We're going to have a 10-minute qualifying session and then another 30-minute race, and why not? It's been excellent stuff as Macaulay here trying to make the Bentley of Svinček go to the inside. Can't quite get the run. Going defensive is Svinček. It's going to be a double crossover move. Macaulay to the outside. I don't think it's going to work, but it looked very interesting. He's going to try and cut under him. Can't quite do it, and they still remain nose to tail, but the intention is there. Macaulay trying desperately to get the position on Svinček. And just to go back to Bellassane for a second, after Bellassane hit, who did he hit? Was it Kavaka or he hit somebody? Whomever he hit, he immediately put himself into pit road. He did not come out. So him being disqualified, it doesn't really matter too much to him. He had already disqualified himself for his driving standards at that point. But nonetheless, the stewards have the job to do, and the disqualification for getting the penalty point threshold is there for a reason, and that's what happens. And that's only the 4th time I've ever seen a driver get disqualified in an RCI race. Well, this is the battle for the lead and the win. 2 minutes and some change to play. It's going to be 2 laps to go this time by. Jardier leads over Philippe Samard, and they are the class of the field. Contact from some of the drivers in the pack, but clean from Jardier and Samard, and they are now nose to tail. We hear the standard MO for Jards. He's in his chat, reading chat, laughing, and having a good time. That's pretty much what I expect out of the man. But Jardier, you might want to rip off that rearview mirror because there is a very red Aston in it.
Yeah, it's not the red Ferrari he expected to see in his rearview mirror. Still a red car, though. And Jardier won't want to finish second. He'll want to finish first. George Boothby will be hoping that Philippe Samard can do him a favour and get past Jardier. That would obviously help a lot with George Boothby's damage limitation. Oh, Svinček's gone off, and Joe Macaulay is by. Is there contact here?
I bet there is.
Between both of these guys. Joe Macaulay on the inside. Nope. Bentley. Oh, no.
No.
Joe
Wow.
Macaulay
Okay.
just held the inside. Were you going to assume that Joe Macaulay just punted someone?
No, I was assuming that the Bentley got loose, is what I was assuming there, based on what I had previously seen.
I'll tell Joe Macaulay that next time.
He
I see
did
him.
do that. Now, bear in mind, he did do that. He just didn't make contact. Excellent driving standards there.
So here we go then. 45 seconds on the clock. 1 lap to go. Jardier starts the final lap of this race. 0.6 of a second between himself and Philippe Samard. All he realistically has to do at this point in time is keep it on the road, not make any mistakes. Philippe Samard is quicker than Jardier, but he's not 0.6 of a second per lap quicker. And judging by that, he shouldn't really be able to get past Jardier. But here we go then, on board with the Aston Martin. And Philippe Samard looking smooth at this point in time. Looking for his first podium of the season. It's taken 6 rounds of no podiums and no wins to get to this point. 3 rounds of the season left. About to be 2 races of the season left.
He might have a shot here coming out of the S's. Jardier not going defensive, taking his normal line. Samard showing the nose as they go into the S's for the final time. Just got to hit the curbs correctly, and Jardier hits it an absolute treat. Samard a little bit of counter steer there. That will just about do it. Maybe one last gasp effort into the final chicane, or excuse me, the final hairpin at Goddard's. Maybe. I don't think he will do. Well, he's going to get really close. Oh, and just like that, Jardier is going to laugh his way to victory lane here today. Philippe Samard is going to get his first podium of the series, and Boothby, an excellent recovery for third. Karsten comes along in fourth, still Vassen in top 5, and Darren King drove all the way up into the 6th place position. Jose Jorge 7th, Bouquet 8th, Keeble 9th, Jordan Grant Smith, who started on pole, all the way down in 10th with his roasted tires. Cody Pride from 23rd to 11th place. Valentin Berry at 12th. Frechelle 13th, Willamont 14th. Soldatov rounds out the top 15. Macaulay, Svenchek, Piffet, Vonka, Verstreppen, the top 20. Tavrayan, Kavaka, and Bellassane are the final finishing positions. What an excellent race. I think Piffet's going to take a trip to the infield care center there. Well, I say we just do it again, Ryan.
I say we do as well, but big news has just come our way, Jesse Lee. Cameron De Bastos, one of our stewards, has just come in to the comms box. This is the incident we saw earlier with Jordan Grant Smith and George Boothby, by the way. That's the reason Jordan Grant Smith is further down. We've got confirmation now. 15-second time penalty for George Boothby to be applied post-race. You can see it on the timing board there to your side. And judging by one of our stewards' calculations, that that will demote him. Will that demote him outside of the top 10? I think it will.
I think it will, Ryan. I think he'll slot into 11th place after that penalty, because that was a 15-second penalty, and that is not what he wanted. Now, I wondered, because I had completely forgotten about it. I talked about that, and I completely forgot. I completely forgotten that that incident was not reviewed, but there it is at the end of the race. It finally gets reviewed, and it 15-second penalty. Ryan, what are your thoughts on that penalty?
I mean, it's the standard penalty that we issue for that kind of incident. Usually it's contact, positions lost for the car in question. Position isn't given back. It's kind of a standard penalty that we see, and it sucks for George Boothby. It really does, because that has put a damper on what was a very good result, 3rd place, to hold that position. But you know what this means, Jesse? Because he's been demoted down to 11th place, that means that George Boothby is, this race, he has lost 20 points to Jardier. And that is massive for the championship. The gap is now 7 points, not taking into account pole position and fastest lap time bonuses as well, which will have to be considered after the race. But this is going to be tough for George Boothby now. He could possibly go into the final round of the championship not leading the championship anymore.
Well, I just heard that Boothby is. I don't know if they said that Boothby was contesting that penalty or wanted to have a word with the stewards. I'm not sure exactly. I may have heard that wrong, but either way, what's what's a championship without a little late season drama? As our broadcaster Stewie has taken us into the infield here at Donington. For those of you that were with us for the inaugural event here, we started a little something special. It's called the "Why Was That Rendered" portion of the
I've been here before.
race.
I've been to
Yeah,
these exact burger stalls before.
yeah, they do have a pizza. That's what he's trying to. That's what Stewie wants you guys to see, is that there are pizzas that are sort of flipped up in an unnatural way. Now there's a bin that's just hanging out up here. That's a nice bin,
We
nothing on it.
actually, Stewie, real quick, can we head down to the old hairpin? It's turn 4 just before the bridge. Yeah, down there, right there. You can see now. This is something. I mean, I don't mean to nitpick because Kudos do a fantastic job. But if you turn to the right, Stewie, and you have a look at the barrier here that we've got on the right side of the circuit.
Is that
Yes.
Valentin barrier?
Not quite. This little barrier here. I have a little bit of a nitpick with Kunos. There's supposed to be a wooden fence here. The last time I went to Donington Park, I went in both in 2019 and 2020. Fortunately, there was supposed to be a wooden fence all the way along this section of the barrier. There's one of the speakers that you'll see located around the circuit. But yeah, there's supposed to be a fence there. These toilets are definitely here in the real version of Donington Park, although they were closed the last time I went there. And there is also this lovely section. Of course, we can see the bridge, Starkey's Bridge, iconic part of the Donington Park circuit. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone who's been to Donington has seen this bridge at some point in time. It's in much better shape in the Kunos render than it is in real life, I can guarantee you. And these signs are very much a real thing around Donington Park. They are jotted everywhere along these fences that you can find them. The warning, motorsport is dangerous.
Why are the British so infatuated with health and safety lectures? I don't understand. I've never understood that
We
myself.
do take it to an extreme sometimes.
I'm told. By the way, you're not missing anything on track. There's a cool down period, and then we're going to restart qualifying. We'll bring you back qualifying, but for the time being, please sit back and enjoy the. Now, why was that rendered so well? Look at
You
that.
can
You
see
can
the
almost
individual
read that.
switches.
Now that is very strange. Well done, Kunos. Number one, kudos to Kunos. But why? There's no way you could possibly see that. So, but this is the next installment of why did they render that, and you can very much see why. I was talking to our broadcaster Stewie this week. He said he was a bit sad. F for fire extinguisher there.
F to pay respects, more like for accidents that happen down here. This was the
Indeed.
point where Jalkovaca went into the wall, wasn't it? So maybe that's an F to pay
Yeah,
respects for his car
I
here
think
tonight.
I think it is. I think it is.
There's the airport is just over the road from here to the left. Here's one of the access tunnels to the inside of the circuit. These things are much darker and much creepier in real life than they are in Kunos's render. I can promise you that.
It's like that tunnel from Harry Potter. You know,
it's terrifying. But there's the airport over in the distance. Very iconic part of Donington Park is that this airport has planes pretty much coming in and out of it all the time. And if you ever go to Donington Park, you will see the aeroplanes landing at this circuit, and they become quite the feature. But here we are then, we're through to qualifying for race 2 of the evening. And this time around, it's Philippe Samard that's got track position for qualifying.
Well, I promised Stewie I would go on a rant about how all of my favorite track features at Donington over the years have changed. The bridges, both of them, being dismantled and removed, and I think it was a Spitfire model on a plinth out there near out there near Old Hairpin. Not there anymore as well. Of course, the land speed record car that was sitting on was at Starkey's Bridge, also not there as well. And this place has changed as far as the aesthetic, but the racetrack has yet to change. And Philippe Samard is going to take that bollard with him all the way around. That might, oh, and now he has disposed of it. But that could have been the world's fastest bollard right there.
Well, here we go then. To start the second qualifying session of the evening, it will be Philippe Samard. To round the final corner, the number 42 took his first podium of the season. Very first race, now goes again to see if he can take pole position for the first time this season. Down into turn 1. Nice and late on the brakes. Look how tight onto the inside, but fighting the car. Gets all sorts of out of shape on the exit. Now comes through Hollywood and the Craner curves as well. Down towards the old hairpin. Early on the brakes, get the car turned in nice and early. Maximise the exit there. Head through past Starkey's Bridge, saw earlier on. Up through the Schwantz curve and then into McLean's. This is where the accident happened in the first race. Rather controversial accident, as we'll possibly get into later. Then comes up to Coppice, get turned in nice and early. Goes wide though. That's not going to help Philippe Samard's lap time at all. This has been a fairly scruffy lap, to be fair, from the Aston Martin. Comes down towards the Fogarty S's. How much will he cut? As much as he can get away with. Doesn't invalidate his lap. Very nicely done there. Making up time down towards the Melbourne loop. Late on the brakes. Get the car turned in as quick as you can. Early on the power. Up towards the final corner for Goddard's. Same thing here. Late on the brakes. Get the car turned in as early as you can. And early on the power. Watch out for how the corner dips towards the end. And then out onto the straight. Philippe Samard, it's a 1:26.6 for the first lap of the qualifying session. And George Boothby 1.2 off that. A very, very poor lap from the championship leader, João Vaca and Jaroslav Honzik will cross the line afterwards, but Philippe Samard remains provisional pole. I thought that was a fairly scruffy lap, but the times suggest otherwise, I suppose.
The track is hot. And some of these drivers are even hotter. Jordan Grant Smith is going to be one of those, Boothby as well, after that first race. So look at Grant Smith trying to weave an about and everything. And I think you're going to see slower laps this time by Ryan. The track even hotter and quite humorous. And Grant Smith feels something in the car he doesn't like. Looks like he's going to pull over and reset. 6 minutes left to get a lap in. Sinchek here, down in the 12th place position. Bentley's were doing pretty good in that first race, I thought, Ryan.
Yeah, the Bentley didn't do too bad. Obviously, Alexander Karsten had a much better result this time around than he did this time last week. And Schwenchek didn't have the greatest race, but definitely something that you shouldn't really be disappointed in. But here we go. Look at this. Joe McCauley, as Philippe Samard looked to improve. Joe McCauley has improved as well. But then Jaroslav Honzik and George Boothby throws himself up on provisional pole. The championship leader dissatisfied with the penalty that got applied post-race to him, but he's not going to let that bother him in qualifying because he's just gone at provisional pole. But he's got his title contender, provisionally at least, alongside him on the front row.
My favorite thing about racing is that when something goes wrong and you immediately fire back with the best sort of response. It's not a verbal one. It is a metaphorical one, and what a bigger metaphor to just getting a massive penalty than going out there and just beating everybody in qualifying and getting a pole position. That is that is the sim racing equivalent of a so there. And how amazing would that be for Boothby if he's able to, obviously very angry, angry about the situation. He has the right to be angry, as would anybody, but the mental fortitude to go out there and set a quick lap, that's a very good lap in this heat, a 26.490. That would be just impressive if he was able to do that here. As Darren King looking like he can improve here in 7th currently. Is this going to be good enough? Yes, it is. Up into the top 5 provisionally. And as for right now, the times are a little bit off of where they were before. Not just slower, but they're a little bit more spaced apart here in this even hotter weather.
It's not too much slower though. Jordan Grant-Smith, 126.415 for his pole position lap time in the first race. I mean, that's only, what is that, 75 thousandths of a second off at the moment, George Boothby, from the qualifying 1 lap time. But I definitely agree that the rest of the field a bit more spread out. We had, what was it, the top 20 cars within a second of each other in the first qualifying session. Top 21, sorry. So yeah, a bit further out, but still just under 3 minutes of this session remaining. Things can still change. And we're looking at Joe McCauley at this point in time. He's up by half a second. This could put him provisional pole. Here comes the Honda up towards the line. There we go, 126.286, the fastest lap we've seen today in qualifying trim. Philippe Samard improves on his lap time as well. But it's the 18 Honda on provisional pole, and George Boothby won't like that one bit.
No, he won't, but Joe McCauley shuts me up with a even quicker lap than the first qualifying session. So there you have it. And also, Joe, where was that in the first qualifying session? Where'd you come from with that? That was an incredible lap. That 286, 2/10 quicker than Boothby right now, but still got 2 minutes and 2 laps to get the quickest you can possibly do. Cody Pride went from 23rd to 11th in race 1 after they had to abandon their final lap that they had in the S's. Well, they probably won't start last in this race all the way up into 16th, but I feel like Pride has a little more in the tank. At least you would imagine so, with how good they raced in race number 1, but 16th right now. Philippe Samard will take no further part in the session. Provisionally 3rd, they have waved the white flag and have taken their number 42 Aston to the pit lane. So has Bella Sane, who is currently in 14th. Valentin Barrier has also taken his 12th place Ferrari to pit lane, and Vanek in pit lane as well. Everybody else still out on the track trying to get a quicker lap. Albin Bouquet down into the 15th spot, all the way up inside the top 10 for the 194 Porsche. 5/10 off the pace as time is running out.
Time is running out. A lot of these guys are going to be starting their final laps of the session. Some of them already on their final lap of the session, dependent on where they are on track. Look at this, George Boothby going so wide on the entry of the final corner. This is for a proper charge for provisional pole on his final run of the session. Crosses the line, has some time to spare. And here we go then, George Boothby to challenge for provisional pole. He's got to find just over 2/10 of a second on Joe McCauley's NSX. And here we go then, we'll watch on board with George Boothby, looking not bad so far, up on his time, but not up on his time by enough. Just about a few thousandths of a second, not really the kind of time at this point that will get him further up the grid. Sitting almost dead even on his lap time as well. I'm wondering if there's a specific part of the track that he's struggled on that maybe we can see that time shrink, but at the moment he's running dead level. He's not really going to be improving on his lap time. Comes up towards the chicane. This is where you can lose or gain a lot of time. We'll see what does he gain or lose through here. Manages to keep it on the road, gains slightly on the exit. He's up 1/10 of a second on his personal best at this point in time. It's not enough, and he's slow through the Melbourne loop. He's lost the 10th of a second that he gained
Oh dear.
through the Fogarty S's. Unless he can gain 2/10 in Goddard's in the final corner, this won't be it. No, it won't. He pulls off into the pit lane, and that is it. Joe Macaulay, he sits on provisional pole. Jardier is a 10th and a half up. This will put Jardier on the front row of the grid. Darren King will cross the line and improve to 5th as well, but we've got a Honda on pole for race 2.
I like what Ishmael Lebrec said in chat. I didn't think about this at the time, but Ishmael was talking smack about Joe being really poor in qualifying the previous race. And I didn't really think about it at the time, but Ishmael letting me know that, well, he just firing him up a little bit. And that seems to have worked. Pole position for the Honda of all things. And Joe Macaulay getting it done. Jardier at the last possible second, slotting in to second place. Boothby third. And for Darren King starting in the top 5, going to be interesting to see what he can do as well from that position. Well, 30 more minutes of racing to go. Boothby's had an eventful day so far, and he's lost quite a bit of points after a late penalty. And once again, he finds himself with his championship rival in front of him. If you're Boothby, what is your strategy going into this race?
I mean, it's so easy, isn't it, to get unsettled after something like that. I mean, I can understand his frustration. There's obviously been a lot of talk about, the 15 seconds being harsh for that. Maybe it is harsh. We only get to see it once, and sometimes we get to see it twice. The stewards get to see everything else. They see multiple angles. They see the inputs. They make the decision, and we have to trust that they make the right decision. Sometimes it isn't always the right decision, and we freely admit to that. And all you can do at that point is reassess what's happened and improve yourself in the future. We're just having a good look at Joe Macaulay at that point in time. We're having a good look at Jardier's car, the Yaz Heat Mercedes. That's where the fuel would go in for the AMG. Philippe Samard there, podium sitter, and there is the still championship leader in the 666. His mindset has got to be, okay, the penalty was harsh. If that, George Boothby has left the current plane of existence. He's gone to another
Normally
level. Maybe we'll see another level of godly pace from George Boothby now. He's entered spirit mode. As
so normally
as well.
What Stewie's looking for is normally we're accustomed to there actually being a player model in the helmet, and Stewie's rather confused. He can't find a player model, but look at all these wonderful GT racing machines and a lot to do here in 30 minutes. The final sprint race of the season next week. 75-minute race to end the championship. Winner is going to take all.
Look at that.
I'd be excited too. Did you see that last race? It was absolutely nail biting.
The fans out here at Donington Park always very supportive of GT racing. British GT's always been very, very popular here at Donington. Get some good crowds. Had some good crowds last year, and oh dear, there's some maintenance that needs doing in that building for sure. As there's a couple of holes in the walls and in the floors as well, and we're about a minute and a half away from pulling away for the formation lap, by the way, so you're not missing anything out at this point in time. But I guess for George Boothby, he just needs to refocus. That Marshall's flag is doing something interesting.
Marshall 39.
He's seen some accidents today. I mean, that does not look like a man that's come here in good spirits.
That is the beard. That is a beard of a man who loves motorsport. That's exactly what that was as we go into the, it's not technically the infield, is it? But
It's
it
the
is the
paddock.
garage area. Indeed. What's behind here? Is there anything behind here? Let's go back. Okay, so it's just another wall. Excellent. So yeah, you got the sort of the privacy area in the back, British Racing Sports Club. And oh, yep, you got to have health and safety. You are in Britain after all. Health and safety again.
Not quite sure how you're supposed to access that fire exit, but I guess we'll find out. Maybe in the case of an exit. Got the Motec out, of course.
Ryan,
here as well.
what can you tell me from that data? What can you tell me?
That data currently tells me Jaroslav Honzik's excitement levels at this point in time, as we get it prepared for race 2. And
I don't know if that's true because I've never seen his excitement levels go down, and clearly that graph dips.
Oh, I've definitely seen Jardier not too excited before. Was it the 3 hours of Nürburgring that we hosted that was he like 4 laps down after the first few laps because of a disconnection or something? He wasn't in the best of moods on that particular day. But here we go then. Formation lap has begun. Joe McCauley leads them away. And well, how do we look at this one, Jesse? We have a driver at the front of the grid who has nothing to do with the World Championship title contention, should we say. Joe McCauley is racing for himself and only himself. He doesn't care about Jardier or George Boothby behind him. He just wants to come out here and win tonight. That's going to add another layer to the dynamic of this battle because George Boothby wants to finish ahead of Jardier. Jardier wants to finish ahead of George Boothby. Philippe Samard wants another podium here tonight to get himself back into the top 5 battle for the championship. And Joe McCauley's just here like, yeah, I want to win tonight.
Well, I think first and foremost, if you are Boothby or Jardier here, you have to be careful with McCauley. McCauley has nothing really to lose, and McCauley wants to win this race. So you have to be very careful for yourself. Look what happened with Jordan Grant-Smith and Boothby got together. Jordan Grant-Smith didn't really have anything to lose, and there was an accident when they were racing very close side by side. And no matter what side of that argument you're on, if the penalty was warranted or not, it happened, the contact happened, and that was the outcome. Don't think that can't happen again with a different player by the name of Joe McCauley. It can. But if I am Boothby, I'm exactly where I want to be. I would have almost qualified third on purpose, except the fact that you can't really do that most of the time. But that is the inside. We saw on the start of race 1, having the inside position was beneficial. It is very possible Boothby is going to jump Jardier regardless, but even still, very important that Boothby be very careful with McCauley, knowing that McCauley has nothing to lose either. And for the very first time, and the final car, absolutely disqualify that car. Who was that? Was that Vanek? Disqualify that man. Because I was going to say, for the first time, stewards, give Vanek a drive-through penalty for hurting my feelings, because that I thought for the very first time what was going to happen is we were going to make it through a sighting lap or an out lap with the tires intact. That was not the case. But what we have are 22 drivers, in fact, coming down to get the start of the race. Race number 2 here at Donington, and waiting for the flag man, waiting for the lights. The lights go on, the flag goes down, and we are green for the second race. It is a good start, a dead even start. Jardier trying to go around the outside of McCauley. Jardier has the position. Boothby settling into third. Samard all over Boothby, and side by side McCauley and Jardier. Jardier's going to get the position. New leader Jardier into the old hairpin, and all of a sudden Boothby on the back of McCauley, and it's feeding time early here on lap 1.
Jardier doing exactly what he needed to do. Get ahead of Joe McCauley early on in this race. George Boothby under pressure from Darren King, who had a great start against Philippe Samard. Darren King's on the inside of George Boothby. And we've got someone off after the old hairpin at Starkey's Bridge. I think that is Vanak, who was at the back of the grid anyway, but he's even further back at this point in time. A few cars caught up in a lap 1 incident. We'll see ramifications for that later on in the race, courtesy of the live stewards here tonight. But my word, not a great start for Joe McCauley. Exactly the start that Jaroslav Honzik wanted, but here we go. More action going on. Jordan Grant-Smith getting caught up in it, as well as Milton Steele-Vassen. Simard, who lost a place, he's going to be concerned about what's going on behind him as well. But Jardier leads us across the line for the end of the first lap. Joe McCauley follows in second, and George Boothby still on the podium. Ooh. Now that was... Ooh, that was Daniel Jose Jorges, and was that Soldatov getting caught up in that again as well? I think it was. We'll see another replay here. This is Herbert Frischel. So you can just see Valentin Barrier, that is, catches the Aston Martin. Daniel Jose Jorges gets caught up in that as well. And that's a shame for both of those drivers. But here we go then. Simon Keeble making his way up. He's made himself, or he's made his Aston Martin go up into P9. Piffert demoted down into 10th place, and now under pressure from the likes of Alban Bouquet. And Cody Pride at this point in time qualified 16th, up into 14th because of accidents on the first lap, and now he's looking to make his way past Valentin Barrier for 13th.
Well, just to comment more on the early incidences, Daniel Jose Jorges was involved with an incident, Soldatov and Svinček, all of which involved, as we watch Darren King overtaking, getting it done into the hairpin. Easy peasy lemon squeezy on Jordan Grant-Smith, as that Porsche just has not agreed with him today in these incredibly hot temperatures.
Definitely not, but the battles continue onwards. Cody Pride coming down on Valentin Barrier. João Cavaca in 12th at this point in time. He's having a better start to his race too. At this point in time, he'll hope that he can carry on from here. And here comes Alexander Karsten, and Jordan Grant-Smith falling further back now under pressure from the Bentley. Karsten had a fairly good result in race 1 after a terrible weekend, or terrible Friday night last week. And he was looking to find his way past Jordan Grant-Smith, couldn't quite find a way through, but he's going to be pressuring the Porsche driver at this point in time as well. Samad and Steele-Vassen 4th and 5th at this point in time. Close battles going on. Piffert has gone wide. That's going to allow Alban Bouquet to come up alongside. Nope, not quite able to go alongside. Going to have a look into the final corner. Perhaps is the Porsche. Nope, thinks better of it. And will follow the Lexus on suit.
What happens here to Herbert Frischel into the S's? Oh, gets touched by Cody Pride there a little bit. Gets a little bit of a touch, but no harm, no foul, really. Just move didn't come off. Get back in line, try it again, son. But does get by Frischel.
So Cody Pride back up into 14th place. He was in 14th place originally, and just lost that position to Herbert Frischel, which of course he has now regained. Out in front though, Jaroslav Honzik still leads the way. Just 3/10, or under 3/10 of a second between himself and Joe McCauley. George Boothby about a second back from them. Philippe Samard and Steele-Vassen in the top 5. Darren King, Grant-Smith, Karsten, Keeble and Piffert round out the top 10 so far. It's been an action-packed first 5 minutes of this race, Jesse. And one can only wonder, will we see some of the extreme overtaking that we saw in race 1? One less race available for this season. And for George Boothby at this point in time, well, as it stands right now, the gap between himself and Jaroslav Honzik for the championship lead, it's going to be minuscule, if not non-existent, if the results stay as they are right now.
Well, I can tell you what Boothby wants. Boothby wants Macaulay to race Jardier and slow him down or something, because I don't think Boothby has quite the pace that he needs to have here to beat Jardier or Macaulay. Macaulay, who was gapped by Jardier earlier, has now driven all the way back up there and caught him. And we talked about it pre-race. You have to be careful with Macaulay. Macaulay doesn't have near as much to lose.
And here comes Alexander Karsten as well on the outside of Jordan Grant-Smith.
Oh.
Grant-Smith's clipped the inside, he's clipped the bump that he really didn't need to hit, and that's going to allow Karsten clean through. And here comes Simon Keeble as well, the Aston Martin wants to get through. He's going to force the Porsche to the outside line, and the Aston Martin going to be side by side at this point in time. Will he be ahead by the time they get to the Fogarty S's? Maybe not going to entirely find out. George Boothby has closed up the gap towards Joe Macaulay. And by the way, Simon Keeble didn't manage to get past Jordan Grant-Smith. Jordan Grant-Smith had the inside line, and that's allowed Piffert to come back. Oh, and Keeble's just been turned, and so is Kavaka.
Oh, there's a big mess. Oh, there's more.
Oh, dear. And I think, was that
contact with... It might have been. Was Willemont also, did he get a piece of that by accident too?
Well, here we can see Alban Bouquet just taps the Aston Martin, and then Kavaka gets turned around.
Oh, it's two separate incidences. That is
Willemont.
Willemont.
And Kavaka clips Bel Hussein, and Willemont just gets caught up in that as well. Chaos down at the Melbourne Loop. And, well, I'm glad I'm not in the steward's box today, Jesse. That is going to be a bit of a monster to dissect.
There's going to be papers flying every which way, Ryan, and that's just how it has been. That's kind of what I expect from Donington, to be fair, is you have very few passing opportunities, and if they don't come off, it's likely it's going to end up in an incident just like that. That was actually two separate incidences that happened at the same time, perhaps the second one being caused by reactionary maneuvers, but rather beside the point. Jardier is getting swallowed up by Macaulay now. Macaulay trying to go around the outside, and here is Boothby. This is exactly what Boothby wanted, because here is George Boothby fighting for his life in this championship, and he's right back in it now.
I did the quick maths, as Jesse Lee likes to say.
Hey, I like it.
If Jardier, Macaulay, and Boothby finish as they are, the gap between Jardier and Boothby will be 1 point, not taking into account possible fastest laps for either of the drivers here tonight. So we could be looking at a 1 point gap between the two of them, but George Boothby still has 21 minutes to change that. He can still make sure that his gap between himself and Jaroslav Honzik is more than 1 point, and ideally, he wants to stretch it a bit more from the 7 points that it currently stands at. George Boothby, I've been told, apparently has the fastest lap of the race so far at this point in time, so that's going to work in his favour as well. He has to keep that, of course, over the rest of this race. And, well, chasing down Joe Macaulay and Jaroslav Honzik is a great way to do that. But you need clean air to set really fast laps. And the only one with a significant amount of clean air at this point in time is the leader, Jaroslav Honzik. We're looking back at Alexander Karsten. He's chasing down Darren King at this point in time. The number 38 under pressure from the 22 Bentley. Can Karsten recover from two awful races at Misano to have two very, very good races here at Donington Park tonight? Well, if he can get past Darren King, he'll be another step in the right direction. Jordan Grant-Smith, by the way, I think he's starting to look behind at Fabian Piffert in the Lexus.
He is indeed, and my apologies to this man, George Boothby, who earlier I said I didn't think quite had the speed. He is the fastest man on the racetrack, or at least he was whenever he set the quickest lap of the race. I wonder how much of his just riding around in third is just by circumstance, because he doesn't have anywhere to go. And what will Philippe Simard do? Because he is right there. Philippe Simard has still Vasson behind him. All the top 5 are in one big train together here. If somebody makes one little mistake, Ryan, it could end in tears, just like it did in race 1. What poetic justice it would be if Jardier and McCauley got racing each other and Boothby was the one to slide through, the same way that Jardier was the one to slide through the first time it happened. Be very, very interesting indeed, but everybody keeping it nice and clean and minding their own P's and Q's right now. But how much longer can this last? Because we are going to eventually run out of time in the race, and I think this is going to be the pass on Darren King. What happens to King? He has to go through the S's. Yep, he made an executive decision, and in my opinion, it was the right one, because that definitely beats going over the curb and wrecking.
Well, Darren King loses the place to Alexander Carston. Carston won't mind that one bit, but look at this. These top 5 so close together. And George Boothby, at this point in time, he's got to try and find a way past Joe McCauley, but at the same time, he has to be careful of Philippe Simard. Philippe Simard, so consistent that we've seen throughout this season. And he's just lurking. He's just waiting for the right opportunity. And one of the things that Philippe Simard has done a phenomenal job so far of this year, I just talked about his consistency. It's not being involved in incidents either. He's kept it very clean, and he's kept himself out of trouble. Joe McCauley, though, has made a mistake. Is it going to be a self-inflicted incident again that costs Joe McCauley a place? George Boothby going to be on the inside, but the Honda out of the corner just quick enough to force George Boothby to sit in behind. And now here is Philippe Simard. Can't quite have a look into the chicane.
Well, I thought for a second that was going to be it, but could it be it here, as he's going to have the inside Boothby on McCauley, and all of this is helping Jardier, but he does not want to see Boothby get through, because Boothby may be the only driver here today that can run him down. But look at this. Joe McCauley is looking like he is going to fend off Boothby, and does, just barely. Excellent defensive move from McCauley. And all of a sudden, Jardier is afforded more than a second lead as we look back on that again.
Well, Milton still hasted Philippe Simard. My word.
I also thought he was going for a spin, Ryan. That's why I reacted like that.
I was on board with George Boothby for a replay. Boothby goes wide.
Aston Martin makes tractors. It's fine.
Are you sure about that? That's a nice grace,
no.
By the way. As George Boothby remains in 3rd place at this point in time. Jardier starting to pull away now. And sort of falling into the hands of Jardier a bit. Joe McCauley just seems to be quick enough to keep himself ahead of George Boothby. But, well, speaking of, here comes George Boothby. Joe McCauley defensive on the inside. He knows where he needs to defend at this point in time. And Sui, our producer, just saying Boothby is so fast out of the chicane. He is really quick. He's got that chicane nailed, but just doesn't have the inside line for either of the hairpins. Can't make the move done. Now Philippe Simard starts to close in on him as well.
Well, Jardier afforded a 1.5 second lead. Be very interesting. McCauley closed a gap earlier. Be interesting to see if he can potentially do that again. He's going to have to do that again if he wants to get in with a shot of winning this race. Meanwhile, Boothby, he's taken some shots here, but nothing that he cannot recover from. And you got to wonder if he will continue to remain patient. And everybody behind him too, Simard and still Vasson, all remaining very patient so far.
Well, Jardier starts to extend the gap. We're over halfway into this race, and things going his way for a double win here tonight. George Boothby through the chicane, definitely quicker than Joe McCauley, but nowhere near close enough to have a dive down onto the inside. And Joe McCauley doing exactly what he needs to do. He's being a nuisance. And it's exactly what George Boothby doesn't want him to be. It's so amusing how one race someone can be an ally, the next race someone can be an opponent. And, well, Joe McCauley, qualifying on pole position, was kind of an ally to George Boothby. But now he's very much an opponent as he needs to get past him. And Milton Steele-Vassen looking to get past Philippe Samard as well to move his Aston Martin into 4th place. But Philippe Samard just kind of doing what he does best. Keep it consistent, keep it quick, and keeping himself out of trouble. Just waiting to capitalize on any mistakes. Meanwhile, we've had 2 drive-through penalties come out from the stewards. Jesse, we don't usually see drive-through penalties coming out for incidents. The stewards are being particularly harsh today by the looks of it, but car 777, that was Daniel Jose Jorge's car, involved with car 122 and 107. That's a drive-through penalty for car 777. And then car 122 received a drive-through penalty earlier on in the race as well. Although I haven't been given the reason for that one, so I'll have to find out if the stewards are going to post the reasoning for that one in just a moment. But a couple of drive-through penalties coming out this race. The stewards, they're not tolerating any nonsense here tonight, are they?
They're ruthless. Even when you make the right call as a steward, sometimes people think it's the wrong call. It does happen. Grant Willamont here on the outside of Cody Pride. There's going to be a tiny little touch there, just a little bit of a touch. That's fine. That's fine. Rubbin's racing. I heard that once in a film. So that's fine. Cody Pride gets the position eventually anyway.
Well, it's all still as it was from 2nd through to 5th. Jaroslav Honzik still leads the way, and Cameron Devastos, one of our stewards here tonight, who's handing us the pieces of paper, he said the 122 was given a drive-through penalty for track limit, so that wasn't a steward enforced penalty. Thank you very much for the update, Cam.
Oh, Darren King!
Oh.
How does he do that all the time? I can't do that. How can he do that? It looked like he was going straight on, didn't it? And he just decided to turn and get the pass done. Well done there, but how?
Well, I mean, let's face it, Jesse, if you or I could do that, we wouldn't be here sat in the commentary box. We'd be out there racing with these guys on track, and kind of answered your own question.
Very fair.
But
fair
George
play.
Boothby continues onwards in his charge to chase down Joe McCauley. You can see Jardier in the distance, and I imagine that this is one of the most frustrating things ever for a racer. You know you're quicker than the car ahead. You can't find a way past. And you can just see your championship rival just up in the distance, almost within reach. But you can't quite do anything about it.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. You know that you have a fast car, right? But every place where you have an advantage, you just can't quite make a pass for whatever reason. In this case, it's because you're at Donington, and well, it is single file around here most of the way, and it's easy to defend. It's easier to defend than it would be at some other places. And for McCauley, he has been very, very courteous in his defense, but he's also been incredibly successful. And also, Boothby has been very polite about it as well. But as you pointed out earlier, every time through here, through the S's down into the hairpin, he gets a heck of a run, but you just can't do anything with it unless you get to the inside of somebody. You can't do anything with it, and you're just stuck behind them, and you got to wait an entire another lap before you get another shot on them. Meanwhile, the gap from first to second, not really doing anything much there. But Boothby does appear to be the aggressor in the situation. Meanwhile, Philippe Samard, for the second race in a row, sitting in 4th place, hoping and praying that somebody bumps somebody so he can get another podium place. Obviously, he doesn't want to gain that way, but as a racer, yeah, you'll take it.
15-second time penalty for Valentin Barrier. That's for the incident that we saw a replay of earlier on. That was the one that he turned Soldatov around, wasn't it? And, well, that one's fairly slam dunk penalty for Valentin Barrier. Macaulay and George Boothby continue to go at it. And Joe Macaulay's going to be loving this at this point in time. He'll be frustrated that he lost the lead on the start, of course, but he'll be loving getting into the mix as well. Joe Macaulay, typical of you know, of his nationality, Scottish. If any of you weren't aware, loves to just mix things up. You know, if there's a fire, just add some petrol to it. It's typically what Joe Macaulay likes to do, and well, he's kind of doing that at this point in time with George Boothby. He knows that George Boothby needs to get past him to improve his championship chances, but Joe Macaulay doesn't care. He just wants to stir the pot a bit more. And, well, it's making it more exciting for us on circuit. Verstappen has just received a drive-through penalty, and that one is for track limits, I've just seen. So, a few guys getting caught out by the chicane, it would seem, Jesse Lee.
Yeah, they sure are. You got to be very careful in a sprint race like this. You're taking every opportunity you can possibly take, and well, if you take too many of those opportunities, kudos is going to give you a very, very difficult to overcome drive-through penalty in such a short format, and that is what you are seeing happen here. And Simon Keeble has Piffett in front of him. Piffett, who had an incident in the first race, running well, back inside the top 10 in 9th place.
And Simon Keeble, he'll be running with Milton Steele-Vassen in the 12 Hours of Bathurst this weekend. That race coming up on Sunday, by the way, if you didn't already know. We have a 12 Hours of Bathurst coming up, courtesy of Jimmy Broadbent and Jaroslav Honzik, working in collaboration with RCI and all. Philippe Samard having to go defensive here on Milton Steele-Vassen. Nothing doing that for the 962 though, and quite a lot of the drivers that you're seeing out here today will be participating in that race. The MSV racing car will be in the GT4 class. Of course, Jardier will be driving with Jimmy Broadbent in the Mintzilla. Joe Macaulay will be driving a Maserati, Jesse, alongside James Parker, Killian Ryan Meenan, and Charlie Crossland. And if that isn't an all-star team of British in quotation marks, because Killian is from the Republic of Ireland, not Northern Ireland, but if that isn't a all-star dream team, you're going to find it's hard to beat.
Let me put it in perspective for you. They will be driving a GT4 Maserati that does not have traction control, that does not have ABS. They're basically insane.
There's a chance of rain at Bathurst as well, I've been told.
I know. It's add rain into that, and you have a very difficult stint, I would imagine, as Keeble continues to work on Piffin here for 9th place. But do please join us on Sunday for the Jardier and Jimmer present the 12 Hours of Bathurst, GT3 and GT4s, sharing the same track. I had an interview with Jardier last week, asked him why, and he goes, well, we had to up the ante from last year when we had 40 GT3 cars, and I agree with him. That's a brilliant thing. Have half the field in GT3s, half the field in GT4s, and I did peek at Jimmy Broadbent yesterday, actually practicing for the race. He was shaking off the rust on his stream, looking good. It's like riding a bike, Jimmy. You never actually really forget. You just gotta get back on and pedal, and that's exactly what he was doing, looking good. Tell you somebody else that's looking good. Still Vason here on Philippe Samard. Samard has hit the gas though a little bit.
Yeah, nothing doing at this point in time, but Joe Macaulay has caught up to Jaroslav
Speaking
Honzik.
of people looking good.
Yeah, definitely so. And, well, George Boothby, he was probably quite frustrated of Joe Macaulay defending from him and maintaining that second place. Now he's going to be cheering on Joe Macaulay He's going to be praying that that NSX can get in front of the Mercedes, because what that will effectively do is give George Boothby the best chance possible to finish ahead of Jaroslav Honzik, of course.
Oh, he's going to lose it! Joe McCauley loses it in the S's!
Oh no, for the second time tonight, it's a self-inflicted incident from Joe McCauley. When will this man learn? Unbelievable.
Oh.
And a podium, a chance at a win, gone. And Jaroslav Honzik will be cursing himself as well, because he's like, damn, now I've got George Boothby right behind me.
How does Joe McCauley not have heartburn? I mean, you just got a feel for the guy. That was absolutely... I saw him coming off the turn, and it just didn't look right, and it was such a slow spin as well. Tried to save it, just couldn't do it. George Boothby up into the second place position now, while still Vasson working on Samard here. No room to pass here, Ryan. Can't quite get it done, but that's not going to stop him from trying.
Definitely not. And eager to get through. And
oh,
here comes Milton Steele-Vasson. He's going to be on the inside. Is he going to get past Philippe Samard? He's going to force him wide. Tucks in on the inside. There goes the 926 through on Philippe Samard. And patience is a virtue. And finally, Milton Steele-Vasson gets the move done. He gets fourth place. Well, actually, no, it's in fact third place now, of course, because Joe McCauley has made a mistake. So Samard, who waited so long for that podium position to come out, then goes and loses it. Here is Belhassain and Schwenche.
Ooh. Little bumper car action there. Waited for and said, my bad. Did not mean to help you through the old hairpin. And Keeble still fighting with Piffett. Not going to get it done here. Can he get the crossover? Doesn't look like it. Well, if you are George Boothby or a George Boothby fan, you have watched this man for 28 minutes be patient and wait behind another car in third place, hoping that opportunity would open up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, opportunity is a knocking, and George Boothby is the one answering the door. What can he do? 2 laps to go. What can Boothby do on Jardier? He is now there. You gotta think, Ryan, he's going to make a move.
He's got 1 lap as well. This is going to be
oh, it is.
The next lap is going to be the final lap of the race. It's taken time, but George Boothby, he has a chance to overtake Jardier, has a chance to get a win here tonight, has a chance to make sure that he leads the championship going into Suzuka. And he's got 1 lap to do it. Jardier knows he's behind. Jardier knows the score. He knows what he needs to do. All he's got to do is go out and do it, and it's much harder.
I think he's going to have him.
Than what I can say. And do you think it's going to be done?
I think he's going to have him. Yeah, I think he's going to get him in the S's. I think George Boothby gets Jardier in the S's here. I just feel like there's so much pace in that 666 Ferrari that it's just going to happen. I don't see George Boothby sitting here and just letting Jardier double up today.
Well, we're going to find out then, because we're on the final lap of the race, past the old hairpin, a good overtaking spot, but George Boothby just not close enough. Up towards McLean's. This is where
no!
He's made a slight mistake, and has that cost him? Is that the chance gone for George Boothby? Trying to not run into the back of Jardier, he makes a mistake, and is that the opportunity gone for the Ferrari, the 666? The gap has now opened up. He may still have a chance if he's rapid through the chicane, as he has been all race. If he can gain time on Jardier, he may just have another chance into the Melbourne Loop or even Goddard's. But it just looks like it might be too much. Nothing doing into the Melbourne Loop, but look at how he's closed up.
He's digging.
If he hadn't made the mistake, he goes slightly wide, and this has cost him. And it's not going to happen. Jardier rounds the final corner. He's going to win 2 of 2 here tonight. George Boothby will miss the chance for a race win this evening, but he will take second. Steele Vasson in third to round out the podium places. Philippe Samard fourth, and Macaulay recovers to 5th place. Darren King, Carsten, Grant Smith, Piffer, and Keeble round out the top 10. We've got a replay here between Schwencek and Bel Hussein. Schwencek was making a mistake through the chicane. Oh, and Bel Hussein has got past. Bel Hussein's managed to get past Schwencek, and it looks like he will cross the line ahead of him as well. Willemot in 15th. Bel Hussein will get 16th. Schwencek 17th, Verstappen 18th, and Jose Jorges in the pit lane to finish 19th. My word. What a finish.
Well, folks at home, if you've ever wondered why Donington is Ryan and my favorite British racing track, I think that pretty much sums it up. I grew up watching British touring cars here and a lot other besides, and it was always like this. It always has been. Donington, one of the very few only slightly modified tracks left in the world, and it delivers excellent racing. And we went 2 for 2 today, nose to tail at the line. The big winner of the day, Jardier. George Boothby will be wondering what might have been. Furious after race 1 and probably a bit disappointed after race 2. And still Vasson with the second to last lap pass for a podium position. Holy cow. What a couple of races today. We'll be back with you next week, right, to sort out what happened this week and to gear you up for the final 75-minute race. But Ryan, in between now and then, we've got some excellent races coming up.
We do have some excellent races coming up, Jesse, and of course, well, the big one is this weekend. It's on Sunday, but before that, let's get into what's going to be happening on the weekly. Night Owl returns tomorrow evening. It was on a break last week for Donington Park, but it is back this week. And of course, it's back at Alton Park for the 4th round of the championship, keeping it British around some of the weekly races. And of course, that's going to be an exciting one. Jesse Lee and Ryan Mawson will lead you guys through all the action from 2300 UTC, same as UK time, but DST is upon us, unfortunately, for all of us that live in Europe. The guys in the Americas have already gone through it. And speaking of DST, happens on Sunday. What else happens on Sunday? Well, it's what's on screen right now. Jimmy and Jardier's 12 hours of Bathurst. My word. Starts early in the morning, 8 UTC. That will be 9 UK time because UK will move over to BST or UTC +1. So that will be 9 a.m. UK time that the lights go out. Multi-class racing and live stewarding available for the invitational split. GT3s and GT4s on track. Mintzilla returns. And they're going to be qualifying this time, so they won't be starting at the back of the grid, I hope. And, well, we'll just have to see how well Jimmy and Jardier can do. The grid is absolutely stacked. We'll have a race program out tomorrow for that race for all of you guys to enjoy. Spotter guides should be out as well for 12 hours of action around the mountain. One of the best circuits in the world, and it's great to be back racing at Bathurst for another endurance race. Then on Monday, the conclusion of the British GT Championship. We go to Silverstone for a 90-minute race. It looks like George Boothby pretty much has the British GT Championship wrapped up, but Milton Steele Vasson can mathematically still win the championship. So George Boothby, he's fighting on multiple fronts on the weekly basis. Tuesday is our break day. Nothing happening around there. Then on Wednesday, the Diamond Drive Cup returns. They'll be heading to the Nürburgring, I believe, Jesse, and you'll be commentating that alongside Nate, one of our new commentators around here. So that'll be at the Nürburgring. I've heard that race could be wet as well, so that's going to be interesting to see. Nothing going on Thursday, just another break day for us. Then on Friday, the conclusion of this championship. We're out at Suzuka, 75-minute race, and it's going to be Jaroslav Honzik versus George Boothby for the title. It could not be any more exciting. We'll bring you all of the action. I will be here. Jesse Lee should be here as well. Stewie behind the cameras, I think, will be here as well, unless one of our other broadcasters, Nick Setnick, can come back for the final round. But it's going to be exciting, and I wouldn't have it any other way, Jesse.
I wouldn't either. Folks, you don't want to miss any of the racing that we have on tap for you here at RCI TV. Please like and subscribe for more GT racing content and join our Discord to get involved with the upcoming races. And we'd be remiss if we did not thank all of the partners that help us make races and do these live events. Race Department, AK Informatica, Raceface Speed Labs, and Sim Racing GP. All the information about those fine folks in the description as well. Get involved, join us, watch us. We love having you. We'll be back tomorrow night for Night Owl, and join us, of course, on Sunday for Jimmy and Jardier's 12-hour stream. We'll all be there, and we would love to have you there. Ryan, crazy day.
Definitely a crazy day. Two fantastic races for us to watch here tonight. But as Jesse said, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in this evening. It's great to have you. And of course, big thank you to the stewards here tonight. They do a tough job. They do a job that not everyone appreciates. And sometimes, a wrong decision gets made, or a decision gets made that people don't agree with. The most important thing to remember is we're all human. Mistakes can happen. And of course, everything will be assessed for next week to make sure that if there was a mistake, it doesn't happen again. But that's been it from us for this evening. Thank you very much to Jesse Lee and Stewie for joining me here in the commentary box. Big thank you to the stewards as well. And of course, again, a big thank you to everyone for joining us here tonight. We'll see you tomorrow for Night Owl, and enjoy the rest of your evening.